Well, we are currently within the period of fasting, repeated my dad, and it can't hurt to do a little bit of fasting yourself, voluntarily or involuntarily. What do you mean involuntarily? I asked, knowing exactly just what had gone down, but wanting him to at least admit his screw-up himself. Ooh, I might have deposited the red bag on top of the car roof because I didn't want to put it on the dirty courtyard floor. And what can I say? It's very much not on the car roof anymore. I just checked. It fell off somewhere along the way. Could have been on the courtyard or on the main street or literally anywhere else. But doesn't that mean, I exclaimed, near frozen in shock, despite having suspected this exact outcome for well over an hour, that we won't have anything to eat for the entire car ride? Yes, that's what I meant, said my dad. And you don't have any other food in the car? I kept asking. No, not even a single piece of chewing gum, he apologized. There's a chance you find a half-eaten cough drop from bubblegum somewhere between the seating pads. That didn't sound particularly appetizing, so I didn't let loose. And you don't have any cash to buy something from a gas station? Sadly no, he admitted. I have a couple euros left on my SIM card, but I fear I can't use them to get you a bar of chocolate. It's about time we'll do just what the Christian teachings advise us to do. We fast. My dad's evil, villainous father, I growled, and angrily crossed my arms over my chest. I hadn't imagined the evening going like this. In fact, I'd expected the opposite. One of my favorite parts of our long car rides had always been the food. At its simplest, it was nice to read a good book and grab a chocolate chip cookie every other page, or a sip of orange juice for each chapter of the latest audiobook. I couldn't believe I wouldn't get any of this tonight. Can we not turn around? I asked, on the verge of tears. Of course we could, my dad nodded, audibly making an effort to keep his voice calm and even. But it added at least another hour, if not more, to our trip, and there isn't even a guarantee we'd find the bag. I've got a proposal. I drive a little faster, and you think about being hungry a little slower, or best not at all. That's going to be an extremely difficult task, I noted. You'll have to tell a lot of story to actually keep me distracted. Maybe another non-parsonage-related criminal case somewhere around Michel? Just make up something on the spot, or start eating the seatbelts like the particularly tough licorice. Nope, no further criminal cases anywhere around the Michel Valley. My father disappointed me for the second time this evening. Not a single theft, though, on the other hand... What, on the other hand? Kai asked, eager to spend another holiday playing detective. On the other hand, I've had a lot more trouble with some of the teenagers in town than usual. They used to ask me for a game of handball from time to time, but now there's just a clique of maybe 4 or 5 older teens from the neighbor village, at least partially. They live at the playground with beer bottles, sometimes worse, and I have a strong suspicion that they've gotten a hold of an air rifle. In addition to that, they've been turning a lot of other teenagers against me, so that barely anyone comes over for youth group projects anymore. Michel is a bit more unpleasant than usual. But they didn't actually break or vandalize anything, did they? I'm not sure, my dad said. A glass dome around one of the lights outside the church was shattered recently, but it could have just as well been a nice blow. At least there's no witnesses to attest that it was my group of troublemakers. Are those teenagers actually dangerous? Kai pestered him for more information. My dad shrugged. I hope they aren't, but you can never be sure. They drink a lot of alcohol, more than just a stray bottle of beer. Sometimes even throw the emptied bottles into the parsonage front yard. So, if you're looking for playmates for a game of marbles, maybe ask someone else first. I wouldn't even trust them to watch over my car. Better you stay clear of them. Dad, I complained once more, without any hope left, but still needing to say it one more time. I'm hungry. Chapter 8, in which you encounter someone who didn't fast and start playing detective once more. I want to keep the story a little bit shorter from here on. I didn't get anything to eat for the entire car ride, back from Mordau all the way to Michel. Somewhere along the way, Kai and Louisa started feeling hungry as well, and accompanied me in my suffering, at least a little bit. My dad obviously noticed and couldn't refrain from adding another sage comment. This is just perfect. That suits another time describing the 7 weeks prior to Easter, the time of suffering. Well, if I understood this correctly, I rebelled against my know-it-all dad. Didn't the Bible say that Jesus suffered so that we didn't have to suffer? Not quite, because actually Jesus didn't eat or drink anything for 40 days once. So he suffered much longer than just one day, recited my dad, and left us to our starving. What a hypocritical old man. Didn't he preach day in and day out to be as merciful as possible? Only bubblegum slept through the entire car ride, oblivious to everything else. It was long past midnight when we finally arrived in Michel, driving down a long road that led from the Althüttner mountain into the valley of the Michel. We sleepily greeted the first row of dark-slated houses because we dozed off somewhere in the middle of the highway. We were all looking forward to our arrival at the parsonage, and I was already gleaning out of the front window to check for the crossroads where we turned into the small side valley, when my dad abruptly hit the brakes. The three of us were catapulted against the back of the front seat, since we'd already half taken off our seat belts. It wasn't particularly pleasant, and after we'd struggled back into our normal seating positions, we suddenly realized that my dad had left the car. Not wanting to be left behind, we folded over the driver's seat and squeezed ourselves out of the car and onto the street. Dad stood in front of the car and looked down at something laying on the flooring. Well, not flooring per se. We weren't in our living room after all. He looked at something in the middle of the street. It was a middle-aged man with a scraggly beard. He appeared to be sleeping soundly on the cold and wet concrete. His head was placed comfortably in the crook of his elbow. Clearly he hadn't collapsed away Mr. Full had, but seemed to be under the full impression that he was indeed sleeping on the soft carpeting of his living room.